What is going on, everybody? So we are approaching the end of the year rapidly, and December is not over yet. I have not seen every movie that I want to make my best and worst of the year list. But what I did notice is that through December, there's not a lot of horror releases coming out, and I thought it would be a lot of fun this year to do my favorite horror films of the year. I always love talking about horror as a genre. As most of you out there know who have been watching my channel for a while, I review a lot of horror movies. So I thought it would be fun to talk about my favorite horror films of the year. So I'm going to give them to you in no particular order. They're kind of all over the place, but I would just want to talk about some of my favorite horror films of the year with an honorable mention at the beginning. So let's get into it now. So for my honorable mention, it's going to be the Mike Flanagan series, The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. This obviously is not a feature-length film, but it is incredible. Amazing performances, great practical effects, amazing atmosphere. Mike Flanagan is one of my favorite directors, and The Fall of the House of Usher proves why. If you have not watched this series yet, you are 100% missing out. So first up on this list is going to be a film I just reviewed recently, and that's Where the Devil Roams from the Addams Family filmmakers. This is a really unique, subversive, and surreal horror film with some really great imagery, some gnarly practical effects, and what's the most impressive is the underlying family drama that exists in this and the symbolism that is used to represent the family drama. I was really immersed in this film. I think it's very well made. If you haven't checked it out yet, you 100% should. Up next is Wrath of Becky, the sequel to the film Becky. I loved this movie almost as much as the first movie. It's funny, it's over the top, it's violent. It's just really entertaining because of all of the performances. I said it in my Letterboxd review. I could watch 100 of these movies, and that is not a joke. They are so entertaining and fun. If you haven't watched them, watch the original Becky and this movie. You will have a great time. Up next is Saw 10. I was really excited to watch this movie, and I'm really glad that it was a return to form. I don't think the traps are nearly as interesting as some of the early installments in the series, but it is ridiculous. It's absurd. It's schlocky. It's everything you could possibly want in a Saw movie, and I think if you're a fan of the series, it's definitely a return to form and you should watch it. Up next is going to be the film Innismaine. This is one of the most weird, surreal, abstract horror movies I've seen all year. The narrative is not going to give you every bit of information that you need to know to unpack what's going on in the film, but what it does deliver is loads of atmosphere and great performance. I also love the ambient score this movie has. It really just left me on the edge of my seat from the very beginning. It's not going to be a movie for everyone. If you enjoy art house horror, you're gonna like Innismaine. Up next is Scream 6. This is honestly in contention for one of my favorite in the series, and it's incredibly unfortunate with everything that happened with Melissa Barrera recently and how she was blacklisted by Spyglass because of stating her opinions on what's going on in Gaza. It is incredibly unfortunate that as an actor in the Hollywood industry that you cannot express your opinion without getting backlash, especially when it's dealing with children being murdered. I'm really upset about that. And honestly, I was really looking forward to Scream 7, but now I really have no desire to see it whatsoever. But despite all of that, I think she gives a phenomenal performance in this film, and everyone in this movie does a great job. It was reminiscent of the things I love about Scream 1 and 2. Love the core four in this. I think they all give a great performance. It was just a really entertaining film that I could see myself revisiting quite often. Up next is When Evil Lurks. This is one of the most talked about films on the internet for a while now, and for good reason. It's bleak, it's disturbing, it has a really unique lore surrounding it. All of the performances in it are really great. The less you know about this film before you go in and watch it, the better. It's just really fantastic, and I'd highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it yet. Up next, and this may be controversial as far as horror films are concerned, but Ari Aster's Beau is Afraid. I would consider this film a horror movie in elements because it is real life horror. It is disturbing, it is strange. Joaquin Phoenix gives an absolutely amazing performance. This movie is a 3-hour behemoth, but what's so interesting about it is I feel like that familial trauma and that break in the relationship between a mother and a son is so well conveyed in the time period that Ari Aster gives us with these characters. There are some moments in this film that truly disturbed me. I would classify it as psychological horror. It's also a drama, but there are enough horror elements in this movie for me to classify it as a horror film. And if you haven't got the opportunity to watch Beau is Afraid and you are a fan of film in general, you need to watch this movie. It's really great. Up next is one of my most anticipated films of the year was Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor. As a huge fan of Stephen Cognetti's original Hell House LLC film, my expectations for this movie were through the roof. I was not a big fan of the second and third films in the installment, but this was right back to basics with the original film. Great performances. It felt so naturalistic. The dialogue between the characters was so realistic. I felt really immersed in the experience of them going to visit this place and having to live in it for an extended period of time. I love that the film is not reliant on jump scares. There are a couple in the film, but not so much that it felt like it was completely reliant on it to succeed as a movie. The journey that you take with these characters is really suspenseful. I did not expect the direction that it was going to go in. And if you haven't seen Hell House LLC Origins, if you're a fan of found footage, it is a must watch. And if you're looking for something in the horror genre that is different, that will give you something new to appreciate in the genre, I think Hell House LLC Origins is definitely a movie for you to watch. Up next, and this is another film that people might say isn't 100% horror. I don't know. I disagree. And that is Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool. There's enough body horror and surreal horror elements for me to classify this as a horror movie. It's also incredibly hilarious, and that I like movies that are able to juggle tone and to have moments that are really horrific and terrifying mixed in with moments that will make you laugh so hard you cry is an impressive feat for any director. And I really enjoyed this movie. Mia Goth and Alexander Skarsgård both give absolutely amazing performances. Their chemistry is off the charts in this movie. You will never be able to predict what direction this film goes. I promise you, it constantly took me by surprise. It is one of my favorite films of the year, period. It's just absolutely amazing. Please check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Up next is going to be the film Evil Dead Rise, a sequel in the Evil Dead franchise that I really enjoyed a lot. I think tonally speaking, this matches up exactly for what I love in the Evil Dead franchise. There's great character writing in this. It's suspenseful. I love the new setting in this movie, being in this apartment complex. I feel like it added to the tension and the suspense. The practical effects are amazing. The mix of CGI and practical looks really great. The third act is overblown and insane, just like the other Evil Dead films. If you haven't watched this yet, it's a great addition into the franchise. And then talking about my favorite horror film of the year, this is just one of the best horror movies and best films of the year, and that is the A24 produced film Talk to Me. I absolutely loved this, and the reason I love it is it's brutal. It doesn't pull any punches. The third act in this movie had my jaw on the floor, just absolutely insane. The performances are amazing. I love the visuals in this movie, just truly different stylistically, and it's really unlike any other horror film I've watched the entire year. I'm really looking forward to these directors' next project, which is supposed to be a prequel to Talk to Me, because I really like their style. And I also thought there was a lot of thought-provoking commentary about internet culture in this movie, and so it really hits a lot of different notes that I think make the film work so well. And if you haven't seen Talk to Me and you're a horror fan, you're really missing out. So that's my list of my favorite horror films of the year so far. What are your favorite horror films of the year so far? Let me know in the comments. These are just some of my favorites that I've watched. I might have missed some horror films that you really love, so I'm really looking forward to reading your comments and letting me know what you have enjoyed. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.